was on KBLA
the
other day, yesterday, with my friend Tavis Smiley. I'm an investor and a supporter of that station. And he said, who do you want for running president? I mentioned, I think you'd be good at the job. Not this year, we know. No, I know. But he said, I don't think he could win. I don't think he could win. He's too progressive coming from this state and what he's done in this state to win in any southern state, any red state. I disagreed, but no, this is a progressive African-American owned station, and I'm sure they like you, but he doesn't think you can win. What do you say to that if you could win the...
Gavin Newsom's talking about potentially running for the president. Actually, he's not talking about it. He's trying to avoid talking about it, but we all know what he's doing because he has to leave the gubernatorial seat in 2026, the governor's seat in 2026. We know what he wants. You gonna pull it off with the record that took place in California all of these years under your stewardship? It's nice to see him sticking his chest out and going off. You think they don't have clips of how you embraced extreme leftist policies during the whole woke movement and cancel culture and everything else? You think they don't have those clips? You think they didn't see people getting arrested and let out of jail the same day?
Bill Maher and Stephen A. Smith have tagged team to tear into Gavin Newsom for what they argue is mismanaging California, and it was brutal. Many argue California has declined under Gavin Newsom. Yet he's gearing up for a presidential run. Maher's critique was fiery and Stephen A.'s takedown was savage. So hit the subscribe button if you haven't.
And the Democrats, my God, please find somebody who can lead. Gavin Newsom is out here in California. Out here in California. Pulling off in his own way what I think he wants to. He's being known more for trolling Trump on his podcast or with other interviews than what he's actually doing in the state of California. They think that's leadership because they don't have it. They know what they're doing. These politicians know. They know where the money is.
Stephen A. Smith didn't hold back, unleashing a blistering critique of Gavin Newsom for what he framed as total inaction while California struggles. Instead of tackling rising costs, business exits, and public frustration, Stephen A. argued Newsom is busy hopping from podcast to podcast, taking shots at Donald Trump and playing to a national audience. The contrast, in his view, couldn't be sharper. While residents grapple with high taxes and companies continue to relocate, Newsom appears more focused on building a presidential image than fixing problems at home. Stephen A. painted it as political theater over leadership, questioning priorities at a critical moment. And despite the ongoing criticism of Trump, he insisted the former president has been effective in energizing parts of the country, making Newsom's attacks feel more like distraction than substance.
They know how to get some of it, too, because Marjorie Taylor Greene came into office. She was worth a couple of $100,000, according to the reports. How the hell you leave departing and you worth $25 million? Where'd it come from? I work every day. I make a pretty good salary. I ain't making $25 million. Working on Capitol Hill with a salary that's less than $400,000 by accident, somehow, some way, lobbyists up on Capitol Hill, you vote in one way or another, making sure that you assuage their concerns and appeal to them and all of this other stuff. And in the meantime, you're getting paid, but the American people ain't. That ain't an accident.
How do you really feel?
That ain't an accident. They know what they're doing. They know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing. That's the troubling part. Politicians like Gavin Newsom often seem fully aware of the impact their decisions have on everyday citizens. Yet, the priorities don't always reflect that reality. To many critics, politics starts to look less like public service and more like a strategic game. One where influence, power, and personal gain quietly take center stage. You hear it constantly. Policies that strain ordinary people somehow coincide with rising fortunes for those in office. Figures like Nancy Pelosi are frequently brought up as examples with questions raised about how wealth can grow so significantly while holding powerful positions. It feeds a growing sense of distrust. The idea that while citizens deal with the consequences of governance, those at the top remain insulated, even benefiting. That disconnect is what...
You mentioned our governor. He used the words culturally normal. He said the party needs to get more culturally normal.
He needs to get more culturally normal. It's just the truth. It's just the truth. I actually like Gavin Newsom a little bit anyway, but it's just the truth.
I like him. What does that mean to you, culturally normal? What do you think he means? What does it mean?
I do not know what he means, but I don't. But I will tell you, I mean, that, again, I come from Michigan, where like, the average person just is a very pragmatic, like put your head down,
right,
and wants shit to work.
Right.
That is it. And so I will be honest, we made hats at the end of my last campaign that just said Team Normal. I don't give a shit if you're a Republican or a Democrat and independent, just like live in the zone of practicality. And the far right and the far left live in a different universe.
I also don't know what culturally normal is supposed to mean. And that's part of the problem. Vague phrases like that get tossed around by figures like Gavin Newsom and the broader progressive crowd, yet they're rarely defined in a way everyday people can actually understand. It starts to feel like a private language. Terms that sound important but leave everyone else guessing. If culturally normal means anything concrete, then explain it clearly instead of hiding behind buzzwords. So, if anyone out there genuinely understands what it means, drop it in the comments. That said, I do agree with what Alyssa Slacken pointed out. Both the far left and the far right need to dial things back and return to some level of normalcy. Constant ideological extremes and culture war rhetoric aren't.
And so, to me, I don't know what he meant, but I think the average person understands that, like, sometimes you just take the simple way out. And everyone can agree.
Somebody, 45%, they're saying 45% of folks in America, whether they vote Democrat or Republican, they're really independent, about 45%, which means that you're going to have a chunk of the American population that's going to influence these upcoming elections. And I'm looking forward to it because it needs to be influenced. As far as I'm concerned, not you, I'm not talking about you, but most folks on Capitol Hill, it just needs to be purged.
Well,
they need to go.
As long as they're being
go.
actual policymakers and not just provocateurs.
Yeah.
Stephen A. Smith and Bill Maher have both made it clear that they believe a sweeping political reset is long overdue, with many current office holders needing to be voted out. The argument isn't just about party lines. It's about frustration with a system that feels stagnant, disconnected, and unaccountable. In their view, too many politicians have grown comfortable prioritizing power over performance. While everyday concerns go unrest, of course, Gavin Newsom may be nearing the end of his term in California. But critics argue that shouldn't automatically position him for a bigger stage. The concern is that elevating the same leadership despite ongoing controversies and criticisms risks repeating the very issues voters are fed up with. For them, real change means not just replacing individuals.
Gavin Newsom's talking about potentially running for the president. Actually, he's not talking about it. He's trying to avoid talking about it, but we all know what he's doing because he has to leave the gubernatorial seat in 2026. The governor's seat is 2026. We know what he wants. You gonna pull it off with the record that took place in California all of these years under your stewardship? It's nice to see him sticking his chest out and going off. You think they don't have clips of how you embraced extreme leftist policies during the whole woke movement and cancel culture and everything else? You think they don't have those clips? You think they didn't see people getting arrested and let out of jail the same day?
Stephen A. Smith has warned that Gavin Newsom's potential presidential run could backfire badly for Democrats. According to him, the moment Newsom steps onto the national stage, critics will flood the conversation with past clips and statements, especially those tied to controversial woke rhetoric. In today's political climate, nothing disappears, and every soundbite becomes ammunition. Opponents would likely argue those moments reveal a disconnect with everyday voters, using them to question his credibility and consistency. One example that keeps resurfacing is Newsom's apparent shift on the term Latinx. At one point, he appeared to distance himself from it, suggesting he never really embraced the label, but critics quickly pulled up clips showing otherwise, fueling accusations of political convenience. Since then, the silence has only added to the skepticism, reinforcing concerns that such contradictions could become a major liability.
You think they don't have footage of crime ravaging the streets of Los Angeles or homelessness? You think they don't know about the cost of living and how it's the highest in this republic right now? Let's talk.
Stephen A. Smith then zeroes in on what he sees as deeper systemic failures in California under Gavin Newsom, pointing to issues ranging from alleged corruption to the persistent homelessness crisis. He highlights how billions have been poured into addressing homelessness. Yet visible progress remains limited in the eyes of critics. The same frustration surrounds the state's high-speed rail project. Years of funding, delays, and scaled-back plans, but little to show in terms of completion. Beyond that, critics also point to costly water infrastructure initiatives, wildfire prevention programs, and urban housing developments that have consumed massive budgets while struggling to deliver tangible results at the pace residents expect. For Stephen A., it all paints a picture of leadership that spends aggressively without producing outcomes, reinforcing the perception that California's biggest problems aren't just complex. They're being
that Governor Newsom is not playing directly into his hands. He himself said, this is exactly what Donald Trump wanted. Well, forgive this rhetorical question. Then why the hell are you giving it to him? Why the hell are you playing right into the hands of Donald Trump? Because I got news for you. On this particular issue, as it involves migrants, immigrants, those who are undocumented, dare we say illegal, in the United States of America, he's winning on this issue. There's a reason he won a popular vote. There's a reason he won the Electoral College vote. There's a reason he won every swing state. There are people within the United States of America that want our immigration crisis addressed and want the situation resolved somehow, some way. And a person that seems eager to bring a resolution to the table is President Donald Trump.
Stephen A. Smith argues that even on immigration, Donald Trump appears to have the upper hand, describing his approach as calculated and strategic, like a chess player thinking several moves ahead. In Stephen A.'s view, Trump isn't just reacting. He's setting traps, shaping narratives, and forcing his opponents into predictable positions. That's where he believes Gavin Newsom is falling short. Instead of countering with a clear, disciplined strategy, Newsom often comes across as reactive, stepping right into the debates and framing Trump wants to dominate. The result, according to this perspective, is a political advantage that keeps tilting in Trump's favor, especially on a high-stakes issue like immigration. For Stephen A., it's not just about policy. It's about who controls the narrative.
It's stuff like there's a new law in this. I think we have way too many regulations and laws, as we've talked about. And this one, I think, says if you're a department store with over 500 employees, you have to have a gender-neutral toy department.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, I get it.
So do you think that's silly? Do you think that's a silly thing that we too much government there?
That's an interesting one because the department stores came to us supporting that. And they're the ones making a case for that. They're making a case, they're already moving in that direction.
Why did you make a law about them?
Well, look at the disbelief on Bill Maher's face when he pressed that question. It practically said everything. What Gavin Newsom was arguing just didn't seem to land. Ma was clearly puzzled trying to understand why California would pass a law requiring department stores to include gender-neutral toy sections in the first place. From his perspective, it raised bigger questions about priorities and whether lawmakers were focusing on issues that truly matter to everyday people. Newsom's response that the idea was originally proposed by the department stores themselves only seemed to deepen the confusion rather than clear it up. Maher's reaction captured a broader skepticism. If businesses were already open to it, why the need for legislation? The exchange highlighted a disconnect, leaving viewers wondering whether the policy was solving a real problem or simply
I got you here because I live here and I'm not going anywhere. So I just want to make this a better state like everybody else.
Man.
And good job this year making it rain.
You're welcome.
That was
that was my legislative priority.
It was looking bad there for a while, and we still don't have enough water in the Colorado River and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then whenever I read 80% of the water goes to agriculture. Almonds.
Right.
No one ever asked you about almonds? Oh, I'm going to ask you about almonds. We grow a boatload of almonds.
I'm well
here.
aware.
You know how much water it takes?
Many gallons.
1,900 gallons to grow a pound of almonds. Yeah. Come on, man. Take on big almond.
And this is just one of many examples highlighting what critics see as California's chronic mismanagement of resources under Gavin Newsom. Take the state's ongoing wildfire crisis, for instance. Every year, vast areas are at risk, and critics argue that water usage policies, including agricultural demands like almond farming, may not always align with emergency needs. Almonds are a water-intensive crop requiring millions of gallons annually. And while they generate revenue, the trade-off has real consequences for public safety and sustainability. Critics argue this prioritization reflects a deeper misalignment of priorities, where economic interests often overshadow environmental planning and crisis management. Meanwhile, when fires erupt, firefighters and residents are left scrambling, highlighting a systemic failure to allocate resources where they are most urgently needed. For many, This is a striking illustration of governance that favors
I was on KBLA yesterday, with my friend Tavis Smiley. I'm an investor and a supporter of that station. And he said, who do you want for running president? I mentioned, I think you'd be good at the job. Not this year, we know. No, I know. But he said, I don't think he could win. I don't think he could win. He's too progressive coming from this state and what he's done in this state to win in any southern state, any red state. I disagreed, but no, this is a progressive African-American owned station, and I'm sure they like you, but doesn't think you can win. What do you say to that if you could win the...
Looking at all these points together, a clear pattern emerges. Critics like Stephen A. Smith and Bill Maher see Gavin Newsom's leadership as emblematic of a broader failure in California politics. From mismanaged resources and costly incomplete projects like high-speed rail and wildfire prevention programs to ineffective responses to homelessness and controversial woke policies, there is a sense that priorities are misplaced. Newsom's potential presidential ambitions, critics argue, risk amplifying these issues on a national stage, inviting scrutiny of contradictions and past missteps. Meanwhile, figures like Donald Trump are portrayed as playing a strategic, calculated game, while Newsom reacts without a cohesive plan. Whether it's the diversion of water to almond farming amid wildfire crises, confusing legislation like gender-neutral toy sections, or silent contradictions on terms like latinx, the overarching concern is leadership that prioritizes image and ideology over tangible results. For many observers, these patterns underscore the urgent need for accountability and effective governance. And on this note, we draw the curtains on today's video. If you enjoyed it, then hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this.